Those of us awake and aware to the issues facing Europe with regards to mass migration, that is, Europeans being a minority in their own continent in only a matter of decades, remigration is something that's often mooted. Now, cards on the table, I've never really believed remigration is possible. That's simply because we have a globalist agenda which enforces the policy in Western nations. So if one country was to try and remigrate a certain immigrant population, the globalist power structure would just come down on you like a ton of bricks and oust the present government that would try and enact such a policy. Yet some Western nations are now realising that they've made a massive mistake in falling for the leftist utopian ideology and handing out passports like sweets. And quite unbelievably, among those nations is Sweden. They've just announced they're going to pay foreign-born passport holders $1,000 to leave the country and go home. Now, in one sense, I'm very happy to see this because Sweden has been decimated by mass migration. We've seen rapes absolutely shoot up. We've seen violent crime shoot up. We've also seen what was once the land of the Vikings turn into the most pathologically altruistic society known to man. They really have been taken over by crazy, woke, insane people. Yet they finally seem to be realising that if you import masses of people from the third world, you won't have your calm and gentle Swedish society anymore. You'll have something quite different. Now, I would assume enforced remigration would be a bit too ugly for the Swedes, and they probably know they wouldn't be allowed to do it by the powers that be anyway. However, they're trying to do this optional remigration, but the big question is, will that work? Now, I am more than happy to be proved wrong on this, and please do let me know down in the comments if you think I'm wrong. But personally, I don't think it's going to work, and I'll explain why. The first reason is that while $1,000 may go quite far in the third world, it's still nothing compared to what you can get in a life in Sweden. I mean, these migrants know that if they stay in Sweden, they get to stay in a first world environment. They also know that it's much safer than the third world. And as much as they complain, they have much more religious freedom. And on top of that, there's a huge welfare state. They could probably amass $1,000 in a year off the stay anyway. Now, I'm aware that the Swedish are trying to make it harder for non-European migrants to claim benefits, which seems fair enough. But remember, they have a rabid left wing in Sweden. And on top of that, will it pass organisations like the European Court of Human Rights and so on? The Swedish government also announced, perfectly rationally in my view, that public sector workers should announce when an illegal is working within the organisation, but there's even been protests about that. So in essence, it'll be interesting to see how things develop here. It may be a test case for the rest of Europe, but in principle I think the Swedes are fighting an uphill battle. True remigration would probably have to be a bit uglier than that if people actually want it, but personally I don't think there's an appetite for it. I think we're much more likely to see balkanisation across the UK and across Europe. In my view, that will give birth to a new Europe. However, do let me know your thoughts down below and do consider subscribing to the channel.